Hello and welcome to Haslam Practice Field as fall camp continues ahead of Tennessee football's September 2nd kickoff to start the 2023 season. I'm Ryan Sylvia. This is Noah Taylor. We are with VolReport.com on the Rivals Network. And like I just said, we were able to watch practice. Defensive line coach Rodney Garner, and then three defensive linemen, Bryson Eason, Elijah Simmons, and Roman Harrison, joined the media afterward to talk about a myriad of things. We're going to jump right into our takeaways. Noah, what was the biggest takeaway you had from what they had to say?
I think it's kind of one of those positions where we've talked about it all off season and a little bit here in fall camp. A lot of experience returning on defense, and one of the most consistent parts of Tennessee's defense last year was that defensive line. I think they ranked second in the SEC in stopping the run. They're working on the pass rush. That was a big topic today, getting to the quarterback. But one of the big pieces they have to replace is Byron Young, a guy who turned a really solid season into a fourth-round draft selection in the NFL draft. But Rodney Garner called that room today a championship caliber room, which I thought was really interesting because there's a lot of experience there. There's absolutely no worry about maybe plugging in some guys at that position who don't know how to play SEC football, because you bring back Roman Harrison, who backed up Byron Young last year. He's seen a lot of football. This is his last season, year 5 for him. And then Joshua Josephs, who we think is going to be that third guy behind him. He played a little bit last year. I believe saw action in 12 games. So a lot of experience there. Rodney Garner seems high on that group, which is really good to see because I don't think you're going to see a lot of drop-off from what Byron Young did last year.
Yeah, a lot of depth at the Leo position. I'm really excited personally about Joshua Josephs. I think that he can kind of kickstart himself into a great career here this season, getting a lot more reps than he did maybe last year with the departure of Byron Young. My biggest takeaway, though, was the big man up front, Elijah Simmons. Of course, he was number 51 last year, transitioning to number 10 this year. Well, Rodney Garner told him, he said, if you're going to switch to 10, that's an elite defensive lineman number. You need to look like it out there, and you need to be an elite player. And it kind of turned into this conversation about how it's two different Elijah Simmons. There's the Elijah Simmons of the past, who's number 51, who hasn't taken control of himself and kind of hasn't reached his full potential. And now there's number 10 Elijah Simmons, who's open to criticism, who's working hard, and who's looking to take that next step and hopefully kind of earn himself a role at the next level, as that is his ultimate goal. So that was my biggest takeaway, is the coaches, fellow players, and Elijah Simmons himself seem really excited to see what he can do this year, as he might not technically be a starter on the defensive line, but he's going to be asked to do a lot for Tennessee up front, and it looks like he's going to be capable to do it in his 5th year with the program as a redshirt senior. But let's talk about what we saw right here behind us earlier this morning on the practice field. Biggest takeaway for me early was there's a lot of drops from the wide receivers. Nothing to overreact about, nothing to worry about, of course, going forward. But it was good to see by the end they were able to kind of get their bearings and start to make a lot more catches after a string of drops, which I'm not saying it's easy to catch a short ball from Joe Milton who's firing it in at you, but it is what's expected from these receivers. They maybe weren't able to do it at first, bounced back well by the end, made some great grabs. Noah, was there any sort of connection out there that stood out to you?
Yeah, Joe Milton and Brew McCoy. I mean, obviously we're expecting a lot out of Brew McCoy this year. Everybody is. A guy that was consistent last year when the ball was thrown his way. Now with Jalen Hyatt gone, with Cedric Tillman gone, a former 5-star guy that we're expecting to take a big leap and kind of be a consistent downfield threat. Got a little bit of a snapshot of that today. You talked about some of those early drops. We got to see a drill we haven't seen yet, and there was a lot of deep balls thrown there by Joe, and I think he was 2 for 2 in what we saw on some balls. Just kind of a really good connection there that we're getting to get a look at early. Because you got to remember, when Joe was in games last year, we saw him throw to Squirrel White. You know, we saw him throw to Ramel Keaton. You know, didn't get to see a lot of him with Brew McCoy and a lot with working with those ones. And now, obviously, those guys are going to be a connection we're going to see a lot on Saturdays this year.
Yeah, it's a really good point. That connection maybe isn't there the same as it is with the guy like Squirrel White or with the guy like Ramel Keaton, who obviously they saw that action on the second team together. So it's good to see that they're starting to get in rhythm with each other as the season inches closer and closer. But if you want to be up to date and informed with everything Tennessee football before they take on Virginia and Nashville, make sure you head over to VolReport.com. We have some great stuff coming. I actually have an article on Elijah Simmons on the way. We have a bunch of content, takeaways, notes, anything you need to stay up to date. Make sure you check it out at VolReport.com and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Links to everything, of course, is in the description. Thank you for watching.